Hello, YouTube. Lawrence Owen here with Colts Law. Again, back with another video. This time I am going to bring you part one of my new series that I will be putting out on Sportscaster. So if you like this video, please go to Sportscaster, make a profile real fast, and follow me there. That way you'll be notified of the rest of the series when I put that out. Alright, you'll also be able to actually get in on the live chat because all of my videos on Sportscaster are live. I have a live chat going. This will allow you to interact with me, ask questions, put out comments, things of that nature. You get shouted out, and I hope to see you there soon. So, the series that I have is Keep or Move On. The Indianapolis Colts this offseason. What players have done well? What players earn themselves another spot on the team next year, as opposed to players that I think that the Indianapolis Colts need to move on from after this season. This episode, some players on injury reserve. Now, the guys I have on the list behind me are names that are fairly well known. There are a few other guys, about 4 or 5 other guys that are on the injury reserve for the Indianapolis Colts that are not on this list. Quite frankly, it's because they really didn't have a lot play time with the Indianapolis Colts. And I think that I can't really give an opinion one way or another because I don't really know a whole lot about them. But the guys on the list behind me, I feel as though I've gotten enough information through the time that I spent in training camp or through just, games that I have watched to be able to give a decent opinion. So let's go ahead and give a start. Who stays? Who goes? First on this list, Devin Funchess. Now, during training camp, Devin Funchess got himself one heck of a little rapport with the quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. He was able to make a lot of good things happen for himself and for the offense. They had good timing with back shoulder throws along the sidelines, with fade routes, with little hook and goes, things of that nature. So I think that he should stay, but only if he's willing to sign an extension for a little over half of the money that he was given for this year. He was given a prove-it-year deal this past offseason. I don't want him signing another $11 million deal to prove it for a second year in a row when he was injured from game one all the way until the end of the season. I would say $6 million. That would be okay with me. Maybe even $7 million. This way, he's earning his money and proving whether or not he could be that number 2 or even number 1 receiver for the Indianapolis Colts moving on, because T.Y. Hilton also has been hurt a lot the last 2 seasons. So we're going to go ahead and move Devin Funchess over to the keep list. There we are. And next on the list is Chester Rogers. Now, quite frankly, Chester Rogers, I don't like the guy. He does have some plays. He's made some plays over the years with the Indianapolis Colts, mostly with Andrew Luck. But as I said on Sportscaster, with this exact same stream pretty much. So, like I said, I already did this stream with Sportscaster. This is more of a quick rundown of it. If you want to see the full detailed view, go to Sportscaster. Check it out. But until then, Chester Rogers, in my opinion, Andrew Luck made him. Okay? Andrew Luck was so good at being able, with ball placement, how he threw the ball, whether or not he threw ropes, whether he threw touch passes, leading receivers. And let's not forget about being able to scramble around, dodge tackles, get out of sacks, situations like that. His ability to extend plays allowed Chester Rogers to find open spots. And that's why I believe Chester Rogers had those big plays that he had when Andrew Luck was on the team. I think we could do better. I think we will do better. And we just need to move on and get somebody else. So we're going to slide him over here to the move on selection. Next on the list, Daurice Fountain. Second year player. Came in with Deion Kane. Right? Darius Fountain is a very good wide receiver when it came to the training camp. I mean, his rookie year, training camp, preseason, really didn't show a whole lot. Looked like he needed a little bit of time to grow into the NFL, to get acquainted with the speed of the NFL. Okay? He even played a little bit late in the season and in the playoffs when we started getting a little bit of injuries on our wide receiver position. He was pulled up from the practice squad and had a few targets, got open a couple of times, had an ugly drop in the end zone against Kansas City. It's not like we was going to win that game anyhow, but the drop still looked bad on him. Then this past training camp, the guy was catching everything that was thrown at him. It didn't matter who was throwing it. It didn't matter how good the throw was. There was passes that was 3 or 4 feet away that I just thought absolutely no way he's going to catch that. And somehow he was able to reach out, and it was as if he had stickum on his hands. And this was 1935, and he was catching these balls and then bringing them down. Sadly, he suffered a terrible, terrible foot injury. All right. Broke and dislocated. The man's on injury reserve. He's been throwing up some stuff on Instagram and Twitter showing, videos of him out there actually working, training, trying to get back in shape. Much similar way that Deion Kane did, right? Colts had to move on from Deion Kane. This isn't about Deion Kane. This is about Darius Fountain. Darius Fountain, I think, because of how well he looked in training camp and preseason, we need to give him a second shot. It's his second year. Give him another shot. Hopefully he can stay healthy and show us that he is at least a step or two better than the Chester Rogers guy here that I put on the move on. I would like to see Darius Fountain stay and get another shot. Next on my list is Steve Ishmael. All right, so Steve, another wide receiver. You see a trend here? A lot of wide receivers on this list. Kind of explains why the Colts passing game hasn't been up to par, right? Well, that's part of it. Another part of it is I'm not going to get into. That'll be for another day on another keep or move on session. We're just going to talk about these wide receivers, and Steve Ishmael is another one of those training camp bodies who came in. He's decent. He's very similar to Chester Rogers, I think. Very, very similar. Has a few... I think he's got a slightly better chance at having a higher ceiling than Chester does. I'd like to see him on the practice squad, but I don't see him making a 53. Quite frankly, if he's not willing, if another team picks him up, great. But honestly, I say we go ahead and move on from Ishmael and go on down to the next guy on my list, which everybody knows if you're a Colts fan, Paris Campbell. Pardon me. Paris Campbell's been injured all year. All right, he's played like just a couple games. He had a nice little breakout game, in my opinion, against Pittsburgh. He's got the ability to make something happen in short yardage and extend plays with his speed and elusiveness. I mean, he's a 4-3 receiver. He's actually got decent hands. You wouldn't be able to know because he ain't been able to play. And the last game against the Buccaneers, the balls weren't thrown well at him, and he wasn't able to make the completions from the quarterback that was throwing it to him. I hope Paris Campbell gets healthy, comes back for training camp and preseason, balls out, does well, and gets a rapport with whatever quarterback is back there starting for the Indianapolis Colts. Whether it's Jacoby Brissett, whether it's somebody else, we'll see. Well, I definitely think the rookie Paris Campbell is a most definite keeper and has a very high ceiling. I mean, he has wide receiver 1 potential. He just needs to stay healthy. Next on my list, Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron, the tight end, known for his drops in Detroit, known for also being booed out of Detroit. The Indianapolis Colts signed him to a 2 or 3 year deal. It was like $6 million a year. Here's the deal. There was a lot of concern. Was we going to keep Doyle or was we going to keep Ebron this year? Well, Doyle just signed a 3-year, $21 million minimum contract that can be extended. He can earn up to $24 million in that 3-year contract. Eric Ebron, on the other hand, I think he has more drops this season than he had touchdowns. He might have more drops, more than he had plays over 20 yards. And that's what made him big in 2018 with Andrew Luck throwing to him. Andrew Luck really helped Eric Ebron. Now, I'm not saying that it's all on Andrew Luck, and that's the reason why Eric Ebron did so well. Okay? I love Eric Ebron as a person. I just think that he needs to really work on focusing on catching a football before he moves on with it. He's got the ability to make great catches. We've seen that one-handed snag in the back of an end zone this season that he had. Great reception. Top 10 reception of the year for the NFL, in my opinion. But he's got to learn to catch a football before he decides to move on with it. Okay? Do we keep him or move on? Quite frankly, I say we move on unless he wants to sign a 1-year prove-it deal with the Colts. If he wants to sign a 1-year prove-it deal for minimal money, $3-4 million, that's fine. We'll give him another prove-it deal, see how he plays with either Jacoby Brissett or whoever is quarterbacking back there for the Colts this year. So right now, as the list says, I'm going to go ahead and say move on. Like I said, unless he wants to do a prove-it deal, which I honestly doubt that he wants to. I think he's going to try to use that 2018 season and just say, you know what, I was hurt all year, and that's why I had a down year in 2019. Moving on to someone who's not a receiver finally, Kimoko Toure, the second-year defensive end. This kid has got explosion. In his rookie year, he had a few sacks, 4 or 5, I think. For a rookie, that ain't bad. He's a really tall, like 6'5", 250-pound defensive end. Got a lot of bend, able to bend around tackles and split blockers in order to get pressure on quarterbacks. And he learned a lot. He sat there and with Robert Mathis, and Robert Mathis worked with him all last offseason. And then at the beginning of this season, it showed. Through the first few games, he was leading the NFL in quarterback pressures. Had a ton of hits, had a couple sacks. Then, nasty injury. Injury reserve, he's done for the season. The kid is a definite keeper. He has a lot of potential. He has potential to be an upper echelon pass rusher, in my opinion. I don't see him being a stud Von Miller type, but I see him being just a step below that, right? I see him being a Robert Mathis style defensive end. And I think Robert Mathis feels that way as well, and I think that's why he took him under his wing and personally trained him during the offseason. Kimoko Toure is definitely a keeper. Now, if only I could not flip him upside down, right? All right, so we're going to set him over here, bring his name out a little bit bigger, move him, and then we move to the GOAT of GOATs, Adam Vinatieri. The guy who Pat McAfee says, I held this man's balls. Well, he did. Yeah, he held them for him while he kicked really, really good and broke a lot of records, or at least getting close to the records, in which then Rigoberto Sanchez held the balls for him then, and that's when he started blasting records out of the sky the last couple years. Man's my age. He's had a golden career a platinum, a diamond career in the NFL. There's not a guy in the NFL that can honestly say, you know what, I've scored more points than Adam Vinatieri. No one can say that. I don't know if anyone will ever be able to say that because of the way injuries are nowadays and the way, I mean, the years that Adam Vinatieri has played is unbelievable, right? I mean, it takes a lot of torque to kick footballs the way he does. And the fact that his knees, hips, and ankles are still good enough to be playing at the age that he's playing. Now, granted, this might be the byproduct of that, and this is that first year that has finally kicked in and might end his career. But he's had a great, great career. And quite frankly, the Colts signed Chase McLaughlin because his injury from training camp caught up to him. Now, whether or not that injury is part of the reasons why he was making a lot of misses earlier this year, I don't know. I can't tell you that. But he did have problems missing. And he started to straighten it up a little bit. Then he started missing again. Then he started straightening up a little bit. Then he started missing again. Quite frankly, I think if this is pretty much the, how do you call this? It's tryouts for Chase McLaughlin. If he balls out these final 3 games, I think Chris Ballard, Jim Irsay give Chase McLaughlin an extended contract and sit down and have a heart-to-heart with Adam Vinatieri and find out, does he want to finally end his career, or does he want to fight for those last couple major records? Because he owns most of the big records. He's just a couple records out there that he hasn't quite hit yet. Big deal. He's still first ballot Hall of Famer as a kicker. Either way, I fully expect, so far Chase has done a very good job this season. Adam Vinatieri, I'd like to see him retire. I'd like to see him retire as a Colt. I don't know if he will, being that he had such an absolute stellar career in New England before he was a Colt. But he scored more points as a Colt than he has with New England, so we'll see. Either way, absolutely, I think we need to move on from Adam Vinatieri because he had a down season this season. And I hope that Adam would not be upset about the Colts moving on from him. So that's my list. Out of the 8 people on my list that are on IR, I had 4 of them. Devin Funchess, Doris Fountain, Paris Campbell, Kamoko Toure. Absolutely want to keep all these guys. I think they have a lot of potential and will be able to do some stuff for the Colts in the future. And then Chester Rogers, Steve Ishmael, Eric Ebron, Adam Vinatieri, I think we should probably move on. If you like my list, please hit the like, subscribe to my channel. Also, if you like my list, or if you just like the video in general, go to Sportscaster, SPORTSCASTR. Check out Colts Law USN. Give me a follow. If you don't have a profile, make a profile real fast. It's only like 30 seconds. Make a profile, and then you can follow me. Then you will be notified each and every time I come up with a new video. It will be live streamed, and you will have an opportunity to join in the live chat with me and get called out anytime that I see you. You know, we'll have a nice little conversation back and forth. I also have a Patreon. Please check out my Patreon. Colts Law. Lawrence Owen. Alright. Love to have some support on Patreon. Anyone who does support me on Patreon, I will start dropping special Patreon exclusive content twice a month, only for Patreon supporters. I also have, as you see up here that's going across my list, my audio podcast. I'm sorry for the big plugs that I'm dropping, but I got to do what I got to do. Please check out my Colts Law podcast. It's on any and every platform that you listen to podcasts on, audio podcasts, whether it be Stitcher, Breaker, Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio. I host it on Anchor. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. Colts_Law. Give me a follow. So, like I said, if you like this, smash the like button. Drop something in the comments. I would appreciate it. And definitely don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, I'm Lawrence Owen. This is Colts Law. And I want you to have a good one.